I am delighted to introduce you to Brittany Anderson. She is president and one of the partners of Sweet Financial Partners in Southern Minnesota, as well as co-founder of Dare to Dream Enterprises. She has a wealth of knowledge, and today we'll be sharing her passion, helping people fulfill their dreams. Welcome to the podcast, Brittany. I'm so delighted to have you today.
Thank you. It is my great pleasure. And I honestly feel honored to be here.
Oh, that is so fabulous. Well, I'm excited for our listeners to get to know you better and hear what you have to say and your good advice. So let's just jump right in, okay?
Let's do it.
Okay, so why don't you just start by telling everybody what you do and why you do it?
Yeah, I am the president and one of the partners at Sweet Financial Partners out of Southern Minnesota. Basically, we are a fully comprehensive wealth management company. However, our whole focus is really helping people live their dreams. Yeah. So we do a lot of work with really helping people get to the core of what will create fulfillment for them in retirement, what really will help them to feel like they lived a full life and they gave it their all and really experienced everything that they wanted. So my why behind that is I'm a big believer that it doesn't matter where you came from, what your past was, what's happened up to this point. What matters is what you focus on going forward and the opportunities that you create for yourself. So that fills me up, that fills my cup. And it's so exciting to see other people achieve what they want. There's very little that really fuels the soul aside from that.
Yeah, that is wonderful. And I noticed on your website that you have 5 principles that are kind of the guiding principles for your firm. And I especially like the last one about positive mindset. Yeah. So I'm going to stop the recording and I'll ask that question again. So I was on your website and I saw that you have these 5 guiding principles for the firm. And I really love, because I'm a positive mindset person, the last one about positive mindset, which seemed surprising. Is it surprising? I mean, is that unusual for you, your firm in particular, to have isolated that compared to others?
It's funny that you say that, because that was one that we actually added probably, it's been probably a handful of years ago now. And for us, it's one of those things where, our industry as a whole, I mean, there's a lot of highs and lows. There's things that are good and there's things that are bad, just like, many other industries and such as life. Yeah. But for us, embracing possibility and taking any opportunity to learn is really what that positive mindset means. So for us, if there's, and I'll go a little bit granular here just for a moment, kind of back out into the high level, but if there's a mistake that's made, or a team member trips up, falls short on something, we want them to look at it as, how can I make this whole situation even better going forward? How can we make this into a learning experience where, if I can make a mistake, somebody else can too. So how do we kind of remedy this to make sure that it's taken care of going forward? But the other end of that is that, when you're working with people that are really cultivating and building their lives and building their futures, there's a lot of transitions that may have happened in there, and there's some really tough, heavy stuff that can occur. And we don't mean that, we don't want people to feel like we're naive to that, or that they have to kind of just tune that down. We want them to lean into that and experience it and get through it, but to understand that there's always greatness ahead. So for us, positive mindset, it's really all encompassing both internally and externally on how we operate.
Yeah, I think that is so fabulous. I am a big believer that things happen and challenges come up. And if you approach it in the right way, down the road, even though it doesn't seem like it right now, but down the road, there is something. And it could be just the learning, like you mentioned, or it could be that there was an opportunity that you didn't have your eyes open to back then without that happening. So that's why I really resonate with that principle that you have.
Yeah. And it ties in with gratitude too. It's really hard to be in a negative state when you're focusing on what you're grateful for. So,
Yeah.
when we look at our culture as a company, again, there's times where people are under pressure and things can be pretty intense. And, we just want to make sure that we're keeping that at the forefront and that we're trying to live it too as leaders,
Yeah.
and help others kind of spill that into others as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. And so how do you help business owners in particular?
Yeah. So typically what we do with business owners, we've had a path or a journey with our business owner client. So while they're involved in the business still, so they're still actively running their business, owning their business, we tend to provide different insights and tips when it comes to building culture, team engagement, looking at how they can potentially streamline their operation and in turn experience more of what life has to offer. Because as a business owner, there's a whole new level of stresses that come with it, come with that role, I guess, per se.
Yeah.
So while they're still in it, we try to just provide those kind of insights so we can add value on top of the basic wealth management. Now, typically we work most with people who've had some sort of liquidity event, but there's a little bit of I call it a special circumstance that happens a lot of times with business owners when they have spent their lives in their business. They have spent every waking moment trying to grow that. It kind of becomes like another child, or even more so, part of their identity. So what our focus is when I talk about dreams and helping people create that fulfillment, we often end up working with business owners to say, okay, well, you know what you were coming from, but what are you going to now? It's kind of that unwinding of identity and re-identifying what's meaningful and important and impactful to them so that they can really create that life of impact on the other side as well. So obviously the money management comes with it. We have very talented people on our team who, they can do that in their sleep. That's what they eat, sleep, and breathe. And then there's the focus on helping them really discover what's next that comes with, that liquidity event and getting out of being the majority owner.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like life coaching, and what. So it seems like what you're offering is so much more than what a typical financial advisor might offer. True.
Yeah, there was probably about 10, 11 years ago, our founder, Bryan Sweet, he had this vision and he was really looking at, the interactions day to day with the clients and what was coming up the most. And there was this common thread where people were really struggling to say what it was they were retiring to. So be it a business owner, be it, your retiree, somebody who's held maybe a high level position for a long time. And all of a sudden they're like, I wake up and what am I supposed to do now?
Who am I?
Who am I? What is this? What is this life? What is this free time? I don't know what this means. So really started looking at and working with people on creating these big experiences. And Bryan himself, I mean, he loves travel. He loves over the top experiences that you just wouldn't even deem to be possible. Bungee jumping off of crazy high bridges in the middle of nowhere and one of his next big bucket list items is to go and sit with the gorillas in some jungle that it's like almost impossible to get to. I mean, it's just cool things. So as he's talking and sharing, people are kind of turning their antennas up going, wow, there is so much out there and there is so much possibility. So that's where the Dream Architect, which is now our trademark process, that's where that was born. And it's really looking at, wealth management as a whole, or investment management, I should say, somewhat of a commodity. There's some creative strategies that you can do. And again, there's brilliant professionals that take care of that. But the dream component and the helping people really put their money to work for them, that is something that just doesn't happen enough in our industry. So Bryan saw a gap, and that's what we've been spending the last 10 plus years creating and cultivating and building and enhancing. And it's what gets our bodies out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. And so do you work with people from all over?
Yeah, we actually have clients, and I think it's about 34 states right now. So we work nationwide. Zoom is a wonderful thing. Allows us to, long before the pandemic, actually, we've been doing some form of, webinar type meetings with people, just to be able to have that face in front of them. There's just such a difference between being just on the phone versus having, being able to see somebody's expressions and demeanor and all of that. So all across the country, and we do do have a few clients outside of the country, all of them having ties back into the US and into our general area. But yeah, we're very fortunate, work with people all across the country.
Yeah. And what did you call the tool? The dream?
The Dream Architect. Yeah.
Dream,
Yep. So it's
what is it? Dream
Architect.
Architect. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So that's it's what started as our 4-step process. So just basically how we bring people in, the journey through the company, how we help them kind of go through some of those visioning exercises, and then how they just get indoctrinated into kind of the normal maintenance phase. You think about architecting a house, go into that maintenance phase, and it's become so much more, where now we're looking at kind of taking it to the next level to bring in 2 other legs. So we've got the wealth management component. That's, our baby, eat, sleep, and breathe that. But then also bringing in these experiences that we're talking about. So
really?
Different people. Yeah. Different people out there that actually do that for a living. So bringing that leg. And then the third one being health and longevity. Because if you think about it, with the advances in science and medicine and all these things that are happening, people are set to live longer.
Yeah.
And if you're set to live longer, that's going to impact your plan.
Yeah.
So really building this out to be an all-encompassing thing that's not just wealth management, but really helping people live and experience life on a whole new level.
Yeah. Lifestyle management.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. So that means you'll be offering experiences like going to the jungle.
Yeah. So we're toying with a couple different things. So as I mentioned, our founder loves travel, loves to do those things. So setting it up to where if he has something on his bucket list, extending an invite out to some of our clients and prospective clients and good tight relationships to be able to have people go with on those experiences.
Oh, yeah.
And the alternative being, there's a couple different companies out there that actually help do that. Like that's their whole business model, is helping people to basically get the experiences that they want. So working with kind of those strategic partners and being able to refer people over there and say, hey, you want to do something, tell us, and we'll be able to put you in touch with somebody that can make it happen.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds fantastic. Yes. So what about women? You work with women specifically too sometimes?
Yeah. Actually, we work with a lot of women. We're actually a predominantly female team.
Okay.
We've got 4 men in the office, and oh my goodness, we just hired 13 women. So we've got we've got a lot of ladies in the office. But yeah, so we have a program called Women Forward, where we basically educate and empower women in regards to their finances, but also just like with the business as a whole, bringing in more of that personal development and really helping people think about, the future, think about, fulfilling the right now, and bringing that edge to it. So that's been a wonderful platform that's actually been in motion since I believe it was 2012 or 2013 is when it kicked off.
Yeah. Wow. So do you have any advice? I'm going to key in towards the business owners, but let's make it for women business owners. So do you have any advice that you would offer to someone who is maybe just getting their business to the stage where, they know that it's sustainable? So do you have some advice for them regarding, what steps they could take to secure their future?
Yeah. The first thing that I would say, especially at that level where you're looking at your business going, wow, this is more than a hobby. This is more than just, maybe some side income or something like that. This is actually a thriving, growing business. There's really 2 things that you can put in play that we've seen help generate great success. Number 1 being processes. Okay. It's not sexy. It's a little bit boring. However, it is a necessary evil. It's one of those things where if you can have something, especially the things in your business that are repeatable, things that, you go through the motions at similar steps every time, having something physically documented, be it in, a software, a CRM, you could, if you don't have anything too fancy set up right now, you can go to the basic checklist format that you have to print. But there's so many different things that you can do do, document what you do. We call it depends on who you talk to in the office. It's either somebody won the lottery and took a hike, or somebody got hit by the bus. It's just whatever motivates you.
Yeah.
But being able to repeat what any role in the company, not just yours, but any role in the company, what they do, how they serve your customers, your clients, so helpful.
Yeah.
And then the secondary thing to that is just hiring great talent and finding and sourcing based on culture. And there's one thing that, outside of the wealth management, I've had the great pleasure of coaching businesses from all across the gamut, many different industries, and they all have kind of a common issue, I guess I could say, and that's retaining talent.
Yeah.
And part of the problem comes into play is when you're hiring for a specific skill versus hiring for your culture.
Yes.
If you hire for your culture and you have that right cultural fit and you put the right butt in the right seat, you can teach just about anything else. And obviously, if you've got somebody where you need to hire another attorney on your firm, that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But for the majority of us, most of the roles in the company can really be filled. You just have to make sure you hire a great person who is on board with your vision and your mission and is excited about it and is aligned in that way. Everything else will come. So those are two things that I would say if you're at that point in your business.
And how do they figure that out during the interview process?
It's really going deep and asking interesting questions. So, I actually think back years ago at Sweet Financial, we would have people go through a little bit more of technical, tactical, hands-on, interview process where they'd have to type up a form letter or, pretend to make a client phone call, and we listen to them. And there's some of that we sprinkle in still, but being able to really ask questions of people of, what drives you? There's a question that we ask, if I walked into your house, what would I notice first? You're looking for people to answer, number one, honestly, number two, transparently.
My house is so totally clean. You would notice that first.
Right. And then I'm and then you see the pile over there because I shoved my 3 kids stuff into the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but and asking questions, what would drive me crazy about you? What would, what's something that I'm going to notice in a really short period of time that I'm just going to love about you? Really getting to know them as a person and figuring out how they operate. There's great assessments out there that you can incorporate in. Personally, I'm not a huge believer of hiring strictly based on assessments, because I think that depending upon the stage of life that a person is at, even though they say a lot of the assessments don't change, I've seen it happen too many times where the scores and the results have.
Yeah.
And it's really dependent upon where a person is at in their life, what they're looking for. It's not that they're trying to intentionally alter anything. It's just a different capacity, different space.
Yes.
So really getting to the core of who they are helps with that cultural fit.
Yeah. And what about now with so few candidates? What's happening now?
Yeah, that is such a great question. This is one that comes up. We do business owner focus groups too. And I'll tell you time and time again, the struggle is real. The struggle is real in finding qualified candidates. And, you got to start looking and keeping your eyes open for people that are employed. If you're out and you experience wonderful service from somebody, you don't have to even necessarily be a poacher. You don't want that reputation necessarily, but just to open the door a little bit to say, hey, I noticed that you did exceptionally well here. This is what I noticed about you. Be specific in that conversation and say, I hope you are happy where you're at. If you ever decide to make a change, just come talk to us. If that's something that you want, because you're constantly farming and opening that door to where when the time comes, it makes it a lot easier for people to start walking through that door and actually putting their applications in and their resumes and all of that. So you just got to have your eyes open, antennas up, and be sourcing for great talent. You can call it recruiting, call it whatever you want, but be open all the time.
Yeah. Wow. I used to do that 20 years ago when I owned Curves for Women fitness franchises, and I would be at a restaurant in one of the towns, and somebody was really good because we needed people who were very personable and outgoing. And so I've used that technique before. Yeah.
And it's amazing because actually that you bring up servers or being in a restaurant. there is great talent there. And when you're a server, you have to juggle a lot and you have to remember a lot and you have to be the brave face. Something messes up in the kitchen, it doesn't matter. They're not going to go yell at the cook. They're going to yell at you. There's so much talent out there. And I think too, it goes back to mindset. And this is something that really, it breathes into our culture here too, is that whatever you're putting in front of your brain and whatever narrative you're telling yourself is what you're going to find to be true. So if you're saying, there's no great talent and I can't get anybody in here and I'm not going to find anybody and this is horrible and all those things, your brain is going to look for evidence of that. Whereas if you're saying, you know what, there is great talent out there. It might be tricky to find them, but there is great talent and I will fill this role. And this is going to be a great experience on both ends when we do find that wonderful candidate. That kind of mentality, your brain will then believe that too. So, I won't go into the science because I can just geek out on that for days, but
I love it though.
And it's so true. Yeah.
So what do you do for fun?
Well, I've got 3 kids that occupy my fun quite a bit.
How old are they?
An 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. So they are active. I actually just wrapped up a big dance recital weekend for my girls, and now we're moving on to summer ball and all kinds of fun stuff. So they are definitely a lot of my fun. Personally, though, I love being outdoors, weather permitted. In southern Minnesota, that can be a little bit iffy sometimes, but love being outdoors. I love to read both education, personal development, and also fun. So really anything that involves my family. My husband, he is in construction, and I love myself a good kind of fixer-upper project. In my line of work, and this is the psychology that I think I figured out with this. I don't know if this is right, but in my line of work, there's really never a finish line. You're just constantly improving and making things even better and figuring out new ways to serve people. Whereas if I can take a space from kind of a blank slate or maybe a messy slate and make it beautiful, you see that end project or you see that end result. So that really fuels my soul and kind of covers that need that maybe doesn't happen in the professional world.
Yeah, right. So then you could stand there in that space and go, wow, we did this.
Yes. And soak it all up and soak it in. And I'm the idea person and my husband is the doer. He's the guy that can get it done and make it real.
It's good. That sounds like a great combination.
Yeah, it's a good mix.
So one question I always ask everybody that's on the podcast with me are, what are 3 traits that you think people need to have in order to soar to success?
Ooh, that's such a great question. The first one I think would be resilience. I think that when you're looking at building a life for yourself and creating success and success by whatever definition is for you, there's going to be times that you get knocked down and there's going to be times that you think the path is dang near impossible, where you can be disheartened. And I think just knowing that as long as you don't quit, you're fine. Right. As long as you keep plugging along. So I think that resilience. Number 2, I think it goes hand in hand with it is grit. It's that tenacity or that ability to just power through and to smile through the tears sometimes and to just keep going. So I think those are 2 big ones. And then I think finally, the third one, I would have to say, navigating fear. And I'll say this is that I don't think it's necessarily, some people will say, don't let fear control you and, ignore fear and, just keep going, keep powering through. But for me, I think you can put fear to work for you. I think about times in my life where I've had these breakthrough moments and achieved kind of this next level success. And it's really been in understanding that pit in my stomach, that kind of scared feeling, that hesitation, that tingle, whatever you want to call it, is actually a great sign that you're having growth and that you are breaking through to that next level. So I think those would be the 3 that I would say.
Oh, those are excellent. Great. So how can people find out more about you? And you've written some books, right?
It's kind of crazy to think about with the books. We have one that's launching on June 14th called Dream Architecture. I know, big shock on the title.
I can't wait to get that one.
Yes. And that's really kind of blending together mindset and money. So that's all the things that we talk about every day with our clients.
Yeah.
I have another book coming out later this year. I haven't quite nailed down the title yet. It's in editing as we speak.
Okay.
That one is geared towards women who have small children at home, but have careers that they want to pursue, and how you can really do both of them without feeling like you're sacrificing one for the other.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So those are coming out. We have a few other books. I have a journal that we've created. I have a book called Dare to Dream. We have one for advisors. It's been just such a fun author journey, and oh my goodness, my heart is just full thinking about it. So so getting a hold of me though is you can go to sweetfinancial.com. My contact information is there. Otherwise, I do answer every single email. Brittany@sweetfinancial.com. I'm happy to answer questions, or even just be a sounding board for anybody trying to achieve that next level of success.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. It was so fun talking to you. And I love the positivity and the fact that we need to think about what it is that really fulfills us instead of grinding. I think as business owners, we get in this mode of grind, and you sort of lose what it was you were doing it for. So I think that's really great advice for people. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah. We'll be in touch soon. Thanks.
Sounds wonderful.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Soar to Success podcast. For more insights into growing your business or improving your quality of life, visit soartosuccessmagazine.com and subscribe to the Soar to Success podcast on iTunes.